All right, so we're going to take a look at JavaScript now. We're coming into our, what is this, level 3. And JavaScript is an amazing tool, and especially given what you learned in HTML 101 and in cascading style sheets, you're going to be able to do a lot with JavaScript. At its base, JavaScript is a programming language that can be inserted into any web page. And what it does is it recognizes elements on the page, variables that we're going to create, objects on the page, and it lets you tell the browser what you want to do with those things, which we'll name a little bit in greater specificity later. But so you can tell the browser what do you want to do with those things, and like we learned in HTML1 and CSS, specific elements can have attributes, you can have rules and declarations, values, and so now you can control, rather than having to program everything in at the beginning, you can have the user interact with your website, enter text in, and have that text be evaluated, click buttons, move their mouse, and you can decide what you want to happen. So you're now in the position to create an experience for your user that doesn't have to have been designed completely, and in a static or unchanging way at the beginning. So there's a lot of good things. I just want to go over, we're going to be going over lots of the details, sort of a deep dive into all of the elements of JavaScript. But before we do that, I want you to do something with it so you can see how fun it is. And so the basic elements are, we're going to create a space on the website between script tags, which I'll show you here in a second. And in there, you're going to put functions, and the function can be thought of as a, what do you want the browser to do? This is where you put all of your code that says, if this, then that, or here's what I want to change. And then you have an event in the website where the user is going to do something to activate that function, and when they activate that function, then the code is processed. So some of the events that can lead to a user calling a function are a user clicking the mouse, when the user changes something on an input field, like when they start typing their name, when text is selected, when a user is pressing or holding down a key, or when the user releases a key. You can also have events that are like when the web page loads, you want something to happen, or when the browser closes, you want something to happen. When somebody submits a form, you want something to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to have functions that can take action on any element of a website, and then have specific event triggers that when the user does something, those functions are called, and they process the code to do stuff. Okay? So here's the basic structure of a function. We have our function and then the name of the function, and JavaScript is case sensitive. And then what this says is we want the document, we want for when this function is called, for this document. All right, so what I've done is I've opened up your try it yourself, and what we're going to do is take a look at what we have here. So the first assignment is to review the sample code to see how the function is called by the onClick event and how specific element IDs can be changed. So we already know this. This is declaring what standard of HTML we're using. And then here is where we create our space for our JavaScript code. And you create a beginning script, an end script, and then inside you put your function, and you declare that you're creating a function, and then you create the name. This is whatever you want it to be called, and then you put a little parentheses here, and then you have curly Q brackets, and then what we're doing here is we're saying we want for the web page to find the element by the ID, whatever we have called with the ID of test ID, we want to take its style and specifically its color, and we want to change it to blue. Okay? So we're saying document, which is the web page, get element by ID. That's actually a specific function, and we're sending it the ID, test ID, and then it's going to come back and change that color. So you can see here that we have an ID down here, H1, H1 is ID, test ID, and right now it has this color of yellow. But when we click on this button right here, it's going to use the onClick event, and it's going to call this function, which means it's going to go up here and process and say, run this function, and this function says, go to the website or go to the web page, find the element that has this ID, test ID, change its color to blue. All right, so let's see how this works in practice. So right now you see, because I started off with that color text, I click change to blue, and it changes it. Now we already had that ability to, right, with on click or on hover to change the color, but this enables us to click this button over here and change an element over here. So let's just take a look at that code again. Here's the function. All right, here's the element, H1, with the ID, test ID. That's one of the reasons we learned IDs in CSS. Then here is the event, the on click. Okay, and that says to the browser, what is it, whether it's clicking, whether it's hovering, whether it's entering data, whether it's pressing a key. On this event, I want you to process this function. So here's the function. Okay, change to blue. All right, so that's our first step of the assignment, is to review the sample code. Then I want you to change the function to a different color when the button is clicked. Okay, so just change this. Let's just change that to red. Okay, so you can see that's pretty straightforward. Then the third part of the assignment is I want you to change the function to do one of the following to the test ID element. And you can choose whatever you want. But right now we already have a line of code that changes it, the color to red. So I want you to go in here and I want you to copy this and I want you to add another attribute. Okay, so you can change the font family or size, right? So we can do font family. Let's see if that works. Okay, so this is a good thing to remind you of, and I actually needed to be reminded, is that when we're doing JavaScript, we're not able to use precisely the same codes that we learned in CSS. Okay, and that complicates things a little bit. So what you have to do is look at our list of codes in CSS and change it precisely. Now I think I have the list. If I don't have it right now, then the list will be under the review lesson. But I think I did that. Let's see. All right. Let's go into sample code because I know I put some in here. Yeah. So here, this raises another thing. All right. So I have font family equals impact. So let's go back to my edit. So font family equals impact. Well, it's exactly the same. Why isn't that right? Because this is case sensitive, which means that there is a difference between font family and font family, like that. All right? Get ready, guys. This is going to drive you nuts. Watch. See? Okay? Now, if you're feeling really saucy, you can look at my sample code, and I have, I changed the font, and I also moved the item, right? Look here. Okay, so you can go in there and do that, but your assignment is just to change one of the functions. And then your fourth assignment is to create another element, give it a different ID, and have the same button click change some style element of both. So what I mean by that is I want you to come in here, and so we could say test ID 2, style color yellow. So style color black, text 2, and I just want you to go in here and make this different. And so what you can do here is document get element by ID. What would we put here? We'd put test ID 2 because we're seeking to change a different element on the website, okay? But you can see that it will change both of them. So that's what I want you to do. That's your introduction to some of the things that you can do with JavaScript. Now we're going to dig in deep and learn a lot more about what you can do, but this is a good start, all right? Get to work.